This episode is proudly brought to you by Santa.
You're going to go into an environment where you need to start managing a business. Like George, he went from being a financial advisor, very successful, to building his own massive empire. Sports commentator, supermodel. No, I'm just joking. I don't have the hair for that. Because I will prove that every single asset in South Africa, whether you're an affluent person or not, deserves advice.
Welcome to What Matters Most with George Matlagane. I am your host, Ms. Leshira Moloto, and today I am excited to have Oswald Kuyler, Head of Short-Term Insurance at Consult by Momentum. Since taking on this role in 2022, Oswald has helped us understand insurance better. For him, it's not just about policies, it is about having hard conversations about financial planning and also helping us understand how to protect what matters most to us. Oswald, welcome. How are you?
I'm very good. Thank you for this great opportunity to speak to you today. I've always looked forward to be part of this podcast series, and now I have the opportunity.
We are so excited to have you here today. And as per the namesake, what matters most to you, and how do you protect what matters most to you?
Look, I think firstly it's family. That's the most important thing to me, because I think every day we need a degree of energy to do what we do and strive for the things that we strive for, and that's all I think underlined or underpinned by giving back to my family one day, leaving a legacy and making a difference. And so for me to protect what matters most is anything that really touches or is in line with my family. So yeah.
And can you just walk me through your typical day as head of short-term insurance at at Consult by Momentum?
Well, it starts with lots and lots and lots of meetings, and then 50 phone calls that I try and get to one of them. Yeah. But jokes aside, I have the privilege of setting the strategy for short-term insurance in Consult, and it means that the meetings that I get involved in is really about the designing and shaping and executing that future state that we refer to in Consult. So for me, yes, it has a lot of meetings, but it's always meetings where I can live out my dream, and that is to build a world where advice is really at the forefront of importance when it comes to short-term insurance.
And I mean, because you've been doing this since 2022, do you still feel the need to prepare, like before a meeting? Do you get nervous? Are you like, I really need to actually go through this and prepare and do things a certain way? Do you still get nervous?
Yes, I do. I think that anxiety is part of the job. Mr. Brand Pretorius, the CEO of Momentum Insure, has a very interesting statement around anxiety. He says that it's all about getting the butterflies to flap together, and as long as you let those butterflies in your stomach work towards the right energy, then I think it's always good to have a little bit of anxiety when you go into anything. Like today, there was anxiety on the plane coming around here and sitting in front of you, but it's such a great opportunity. So yeah.
And if you weren't working in the insurance industry, what would you rather be doing and why?
Sports commentator, supermodel. No, I'm just joking. I don't have the hair for that. But on a serious note, I would love to venture into consulting one day. So everything that I engage with at the moment, every person I interact with, I love input. So I love asking a lot of questions, understanding people's different environments. And I think it's because of that nature of wanting to learn and understand, I think it will play out well when I one day move into a consulting role. So to really assist South Africans to drive a greater good, but from a business perspective.
Yeah. And I mean, you have said that short-term insurance is more than just a product. It's a good way to start bigger conversations around money and planning. How did you come to see it that way?
I think that when it comes to short-term insurance and medical aid, I think it's the two products in South Africa that has evolved a lot faster than others in terms of, especially into the digital space. We see social media being used on the forefront of sales activity. So a lot of growth is taking place in a non-face-to-face environment in short-term insurance and medical aid, which tells me that if we think about sales at the moment, coming back all the way 20, 30 years ago with Boiler Room, where you took a phone and you phoned 50 people on a list and you made sure that you get those phone calls in to get a policy. Now you can, through building communities on an online environment, you can generate opportunities through that. And you might end up wanting to get to the life insurance policy where the real commission sits, or you want to do the investment or whatever, but I think it's a lot easier to get that short-term and medical aid as the foot into the door. I mean, ask yourself, if you had to meet someone selling shoes to you in a shop and she happens to ask you where your short-term insurance is, it's a lot easier for you to start sharing that information. If she had to ask you, where's your will and how much life insurance do you have, then you start sharing a little bit more personal information about you. And I think that's what short-term insurance and medical aid specifically makes it unique, is that without sharing too much, we can solve for the need. It's more about the assets that you own and when we protect those assets. So I would say if I'm a financial advisor, I would start with going into the social media space, having a community of people that follows the way I think about insuring items. And then once I have those clients with me and they've built a relationship, then to evolve that into a life and investment conversation, because then you have the relationship. So I think it really comes down to having the relationship to be able to have a little bit of more of a technical, personal conversation around your financial planning, in my opinion.
Okay. And Oswald, I mean, you've spoken about how AI can make things, can make insurance better, even if some people are nervous about using it. How are you using tech and AI to make things easier for advisors and clients?
Let's start with for clients. I think the world that we are living in at the moment is using ChatGPT, they're using Microsoft Copilot, Gemini, whatever you want to call it. I think, especially in South Africa, we have evolved quite quickly into using alternative methods to understand stuff, which means that the average South African knows more than what they knew in the past about anything and everything. So you can either, if you consider yourself as a financial advisor, kick against it and say that I'm going to be replaced by robots in the future, or you can say that I can rather partner with what technology can give me, but still have the human edge. Now, to answer you, I think South Africans want ultra personalization, in my opinion, meaning you have to show up unique in terms of the engagement with me. A one-size-fits-all, or as other people refer to it as a cookie cutter, is just simply not going to work going forward. So you have to know what I, as Oswald Kuyler, really want. The way that you communicate to me, the frequency of communication, the way that you position your solution to me. I might like a lot of graphs and data and stuff when I make my decision, and you might just like, am I insured and is it cheap? That's the difference. But if you can use client information, which I really think is data is the new oil in South Africa, if you can use data effectively and responsibly, I can give you a personalized experience that will make you feel like this guy really honestly knows me. And I think then the trick becomes, how do you not be fake? Because I think we're moving very quickly to a place where everyone can ultra-personalize the experience, and you feel okay, but then it kind of feels like it's fake. It's like that birthday message from, I don't want to call a specific consumer brand on live, but it's a message from one of them, but you know that it's not really with heart. It's a robot that did it. So to venture into the question around advisors, I think if you can take that data, personalize the client's experience, and then use that same data that you have and automate some of the administrative components. So we all know financial advisors are dragged into a lot of compliance and administrative functions that they need to perform when it comes to what the FSCA requires as good advice. Now, imagine if we can take those things and automate it. So automate what we refer to as repetitive things. The stuff like capturing the name and surname, knowing where you are, where your address is, all of those basic things. But letting a computer do that, then the beauty is that suddenly you move into a space where the advisor, like George Malakane, who started his career around wanting to give advice to people, wanting to build a relationship. He wanted to feel these clients. And the only way you can do that effectively is if you've got enough time to do it. Now, all these administration burdens and those things are causing our advisors in South Africa to be so tied into the regulations that they don't have the opportunity to actually go back to what they really want to do, and that is to get to know you, understand your risk, and give you advice in a personalized way. So what we're doing through AI and technology, we marry that technology capability with the human expertise. We bring it together and we give our advisors the ability to really touch our clients more often than we've ever done before. And that's what Consult has done through the way that we've developed our technology.
And with all these tech tools and AI solutions making things more efficient, why do you think it's still important to keep the human advisor involved in all of this? How do you make sure the personal connection isn't lost along the way?
Yeah, as to my previous point, it is really important that as much as you're going to unlock a lot of efficiency in your practice through the technology, that you use that spare time. As much as we think that financial advisors play golf every day, I think we can play golf once a week or 2 times a week maximum, but I'm just joking. But I think the spare time that we're now going to get, I really think that we should reinvest that into time with our clients. So if you know that the ultra personalization that I referred to earlier for you personally is to go and spend time with you in hospital that day when your child is born, that moment when your child is put into your arms, your financial advisor is not necessarily there in front of your husband, but he's there providing that flowers or that special message to say that we're part of it. And I'm not saying that will work for me, but that's the beauty of this. If you can have control over the data, you've got the automations and stuff in place, then it will, on a click of a button, you'll immediately know what works for this client. And then when you engage with the client, it's not a fake engagement, it's actually a true human interaction. Yeah. And that's how I see the two work together.
How do you think insurance solutions adapt over time to meet South African needs?
We're going to have to. I think it's already happening in South Africa. That's the good thing. South Africa is definitely on the forefront in terms of, if you had to rank us according to industries, the financial services sector is one of the leading industries, the South African one in a global context. So we're definitely using the right technology. We are having the right conversations to help South Africans move forward in terms of protecting their assets. A good example of that is how we're seeing short-term insurers specifically investing into understanding the minute detail of risk of a client and then pricing according to that. So I do see that already taking shape in the South African environment and playing to the benefit of people who decide to manage their risk better than others. So if you are a South African that has invested into security systems and you've invested into having good business continuity planning in place, cybersecurity policies, the insurers are going to benefit you in the future. They are going to partner with clients like that. And I think that's what's good for us, because the fact of the matter is South Africa and globally, in my opinion, we are not going into an environment where we're going to see less storms, less earthquakes. It's just going to become more and more with global warming, etc. And unfortunately for South Africa, we've got this added element, but that's what makes this country beautiful, is that we have the pothole or 2 or 3 that you need to worry about, and maybe load shedding and all those things. And again, how the insurance companies have just again showed that typical South African culture of resilience in the way that they change their policy wording, in the way that they're trying to help the South African. And I see this great partnership in the future between clients managing their risk through the help of their financial advisor, and then ultimately generating a good outcome for insurers. Because at the end of the day, as much as we don't like insurers rejecting some claims, increasing your premium, ultimately it still remains a business and they have to be profitable. And the way that they are profitable is about making sure that when we claim, it's for the right things. And that's where I think that triangle of partnership is going to play a good part in the future to help South Africans, as you asked, when it comes to protecting their risk.
As I'm talking to you, I'm realizing you have so much passion in the topic of insurance. How did this come about, this passion? Did you always know that you want to be in the industry and insurance is something that you really love and want to create solutions for people?
I think you nailed it right at the end. It's not so much short-term insurance. It is more about making a real difference to people's lives. And I believe that in the sector that you end up with, where the Lord places you, I think that's where you need to make that difference. Take His grace and His favor that you have on your life, spread that to other people. And for me, maybe just as an added item. I love a challenge. So when someone said to me, and it was a few years ago, I won't mention the name of the individual, but when someone mentioned to me that it's impossible to really be successful in short-term insurance because the direct market will take over from us, etc., I saw it as a challenge that the day that I die, I will compete against that. Because I will prove that every single asset in South Africa, whether you're an affluent person or not, deserves advice. When you go direct, I don't know so much if there's advice, but that's my opinion.
Okay, and you mentioned earlier that your day starts with a lot of meetings. What do you do to unwind or to relax if you're not doing short-term insurance?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I really like sport. And why I say it's an interesting question is because sport can't... I mean, if you look at the Springboks, does that make you relax? Maybe sometimes not. Winning 3 knockout games with 1 point to win the World Cup, I'm not so sure that gives you to relax. But I do enjoy sport. It's the time that I switch off, and I'm blessed that both my children are big into sport as well, so I have that opportunity to watch them. I'd be lying if I gave you that conventional answer of I like reading books. I don't. I'll rather just watch a clip of something.
And you actually strike me as someone who's on there the whole day at the library reading books. No. Okay, and then if you could sit down and have dinner with anyone, who would it be and why? And what kind of conversations would you want to have with that person?
I love that question. Because I think it says a lot, whatever the person says to that, says a lot about what drives this individual. Because I think when you go for dinner with an individual, specifically in relation to how you've asked it, then I would tend to immediately go to what can I get out of that conversation. Now, from that angle, might sound strange, but from that angle, I would, because you're saying someone that is either alive right now or been alive, and either context is true, I'd love to spend time with Jesus. I'd love to be able to ask him just one question, and that is that if I was born with the reason to serve you, in what way can I do it for the next 20, 30 years, so that when I am up there, the gifts that he refers to, that I will be able to enjoy those gifts in heaven. So that's what I would want to know.
I love that answer so much. And if for anybody who would want to join into the field of short-term insurance, or at least look at your role as head of short-term insurance and say, I want to be like Oswald, or I want to do what Oswald is doing, what advice would you have for them? And how do you think they should go about into making it into the industry?
I think the first thing is, in my opinion, you can't be effective in short-term insurance. And I think the underlying word here is effective in short-term insurance if you don't have a serving nature. This industry requires you to always be humble and always place your clients in front of you. So if you don't have an underlying tone of I want to serve, then this industry at some point will kick you out. I think that's the character answer. Then in terms of qualifications and stuff, it's always good to upskill yourself and understand the industry, because the different questions you're going to get in the market as you progress in your career, whether that's being an advisor or ending up in corporate like myself, you have to have a reasonable understanding of the scope of cover of what South Africa requires firstly and what you can offer. Then I think it's also important that you go into things like understanding business practices. Because when you are a successful financial advisor, which the people listening to this I believe will be, you're going to go into an environment where you need to start managing a business. Like George, he went from being a financial advisor, very successful, to building his own massive empire. But to be successful at that level requires you to understand business practices. And I think that's why the combination of having the right character, the serving nature, making sure that you do get yourself qualified with the necessary information about the industry, and then making sure that when you do step into owning your own empire and growing advisors under you, that you have that ability to lead in a business context. And there's lots of material and podcasts and books, this podcast as an example, that you can go through and that helps you. And South Africa's got great universities and stuff that you can enroll into. So yeah, I think the opportunity is definitely there for people to do that. But again, if you do not have that serving nature, I think you're going to, it will spit you out at some point.
So you heard from Oswald himself, be humble, but it has been great having you here today, and thank you so much, Oswald.
Thank you, it has been wonderful. Thank you again for the opportunity.
Thank you.
This episode was proudly brought to you by Sunta.